All right, you want us to hit record? All right, well, we'll go ahead and call our Summit Waller Community Association board meeting August 6th, 2024 to order at 7:04 p.m. I'm going to pull up the agenda that I can't seem to find.
You want to borrow mine?
Yeah. Yes, please. I can't find. Oh,
Here
here it
it
is. Here
is.
it is. Yeah, thanks. No, I got it. I got it. Now here we go. Let's see. I will share my screen. Oh, can you please enable me to share my screen, please, Gabe? There we go. I'll make it. Okay, well, we don't have any guests, so we'll skip that. I believe we have the meeting minutes that John sent out earlier today. Do I hear a motion to approve
I
the
move
July
to
meeting minutes?
I move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved.
I second.
I'll
Gabe.
second it.
Okay, it's been
Gabe.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. Okay, approved for the July meeting minutes. Thank you, John, for taking those. Appreciate it. Let's see here. I'm trying to get out of full.
As a point of interest, I did not get John's email with the meeting minutes.
Well, I know I can't send them to you because I know you won't get them from me.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to. I'm
Have to have
thinking
me help
about
you out.
getting
All right, moving on to officer reports and correspondence. We have the treasurer's reports that I sent out almost 2 weeks ago now. And
Did Dawn not get those?
probably
If
not.
you sent them out?
Probably not. I don't believe he did. In fact, I think we exchanged Facebook messages over the fact that he didn't get those. But do I hear a motion to approve the May and June treasurer's reports?
I have a question first.
Sure.
I noticed on the May one, the May 31st one, there was $615 in membership dues, but there was no accompanying list of what people donated.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody get a list?
I did not.
I
He
would,
did not.
I would recommend, Madam Vice President, that you email Russ and ask him if he would provide a list to go along with the treasurer's report for May 31st. I mean, I don't question. I'm sure that there was too many names to list on the front page, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the past, when we have a lot of people donating after our May general membership meeting, we usually get an accompanying list.
Okay.
I'm willing to approve the 2 months, but I just would like you to email him and ask him for a list.
Okay, that was going to be my question. If you were wanting to wait until you saw that list to approve the treasurer's report, but it sounds like you're willing to approve it, and then Russell can provide that afterwards.
Yeah, if there were $615 less subtracted
Mhm.
and there was no reason given, yeah, I wouldn't approve it.
Okay,
But yeah, I'm okay.
okay.
So I make a motion to approve May and June's treasurer's reports.
Okay, it's been moved.
Gabe seconds again.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the May and June treasurer's reports. Any other discussion before we vote? Okay, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. No nays, so the ayes have that. So the treasurer's reports for May and June are approved with the caveat that we'll get the list of names for those deposits that were made for the month of May. And I will do that. Okay, moving on to item 3B. Is there any website or Facebook updates that you have for us, Gabe?
Nothing major, but we're about 12 higher this month in total memberships on the Safe Facebook group. And I'm not going to go through the decline, but there's 25 approved and over 90 decline, over 80 declined. They're just scammers. And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then for the engagement's holding steady. There's really no fluctuation beyond month to month. And then pull up the report here for viewing and sessions. It's pretty much even. There's not a large gain or loss in views and or sessions. So it's business as usual for the website and Facebook group. That's
Yeah.
all for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting tricky or tricky and somewhat time consuming to filter through the new requests that come in. So they're easy when someone from inside the group is asking, and then you have some mutual friends or you like the same pages, which is helpful. But we're getting
Oh yeah.
so many of those where you go on and it looks legit, but it likely isn't. So it is taking a lot of time to do that.
I'm skeptical even if they're invited from someone within, because that with person within, I look to see if they weren't somehow missed too as a scammer. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Well,
yeah,
yes, good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
75% of what we get are rejections or more. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I'm inclined these days just to hit the decline button.
Yeah.
And if they really are a real person, they'll probably ask to join again and then hopefully provide more information. But it's been
Yeah.
difficult. Yeah.
I can tell you some ways to sift through them a little bit easier. I'll tell you about them offline,
Okay.
off group. But yeah, there's a few red flags that automatically, yeah, they're definitely scammers
Mm-hmm.
or fake
Mm-hmm.
accounts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
But
annoying.
yep, keeps me busy during downtime though.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let's talk about new business. And we have a potential land use issue on Waller Road. And I know that Dan has sent out a couple emails introducing that topic. So, Dan, would you like to give us some context about what you'd like the board to do this
Sure.
evening?
First, I want to say thanks to Gabe and Angela for taking care of the scammers. I hate scammers, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we should maybe do this in executive session.
I don't know. Do we need to because we're talking about a specific
Yeah,
parcel?
it's actually a specific parcel and a specific case ongoing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That doesn't involve Summit Waller, but it's there. I just think
Right.
executive session might be important.
What do other people think? I I'm fine with that if that's a most appropriate thing to do.
Well, you've already posted the address.
Oh, the address is not an issue. Things I'm going to be saying and questions that you may be answering or asking. I think executive session is appropriate, and that's what I would like to do.
Question.
Go ahead, Sheila.
Um, do alternate board members join in to executive session this time, since there's a small amount of folks, or do we decline?
I have no objection for Sheila being involved with this executive session.
Mm-mm.
Okay, but I was wondering if there is if there's a rule associated with that at all?
Larry, what do the bylaws say on that, Larry?
I do not think that from my memory, there is no language that addresses executive session. And how many people can be a part of executive session. So I think it's up to the chair to decide.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would like Sheila to be involved.
That's good for the alternates to also know what we're talking about too, so they can talk about decisions if somebody else isn't here.
Absolutely.
Shall I
Okay.
pause?
And good training.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the bylaws about an executive session, but let's look at alternates. It doesn't say. I'm not finding it. So I don't know that we have any guidance on that in our bylaws. Let's see.
We've amended our bylaws.
No proxies. Well, that's good to know because Jen talked about that.
Our bylaws are constantly a work in progress, and we've amended them several times
Yeah.
as we find new reasons for clarification.
So what I
Added
mentioned
to
just a second ago was if for some reason we have a executive session, then carries on to a new meeting, and one of the people that were not part of the session don't know the discussion for the board, I think it makes sense that alternates also be included on there. If there's a vote to be made and we have a quorum without the alternate, then that of course still does not, include the alternate for the voting.
Sheila needs to be involved with this.
Yeah, I'm going to pause the recording.
Right.
Could I just put a little something on the record here? We discussed at some length the issue at 5507 Waller Road, the introduction of industrial moving and storage uses at the property. And the board is considering a letter dated August the 5th addressed to county officials regarding various violations and an application to be signed by our president. And that's what's before the board now.
And I would like to motion that we send that letter to the county regarding 5507 Waller Road.
second it.
Okay, so it's been moved.
Okay, Larry.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay.
As odd as it sounds, I'm wondering if I should abstain because I'm going to be writing a letter as a lawyer. I think I'm going to abstain from the vote.
Okay. So any
We
nays?
still have
I don't hear any nays. I have one abstention.
Sorry about that. My phone kind of did a thing.
It's okay.
I'm a yay.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we had enough board members for a majority. That was 5, so that
Okay.
passes so Dan can send that letter to the county as soon as he is able to.
A couple of additional issues, if I may. Do I have permission? Where is Jen Bosworth? Where's she on vacation?
She's out of the country. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you know when she's coming back?
I don't. Do you know, Sheila, what her vacation time frame was?
I think it's another week and a half.
Okay.
Okay. Who else can sign this letter in her stead? I know, Angela, you can't because you with the
I'm
county?
not going, even if I could, I'm not going to.
No, I wouldn't. Who are the other board members here that are, John has some authority, doesn't he?
We would have to be an
Well,
officer, right?
let's go to the bylaws.
You got president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer.
Who, treasurer would be Russ.
Executive,
John, would you be willing to sign this?
Sure.
I think that the board would have the authority to have it signed by an officer. And honestly, I'm just making up stuff now. I don't know.
well, you have an executive board made up of the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. And any one of those people could probably sign for the president in her absence.
The title secretary sounds pretty impressive to me. John, John, could you can you sign
You don't
that?
have a choice, Dan.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is, John,
The president's gone, the vice president's not gonna sign it, treasurer's gone, you only have one choice left, and that's the secretary, so
that's
let's
fine.
get on with it.
Okay, John, I'm gonna change the name to your name, secretary. I'm gonna email it to you. Are you able to sign, scan, and email it back to me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. I'll do that. I'll do that tomorrow. And if you could get that back, I'll file it with the county before the end of this week. And then full disclosure, I propose to then say, it says at the very end, a representative or association may soon contact you to provide additional information. That's going to be me writing a legal document, not a factual letter like the Puyallup tribal thing that we all want to participate in, but in a legal argument why this or that should happen. And before I send that to the county, I will give it to you folks so that you can look at it and do whatever you want with it.
Okay.
Okay, so did we vote yet? I guess we did, yes.
We did, and it passed. So, yep. John's going to sign it.
Could I have another minute of the time here? We just got done with the Puyallup tribal thing up there, and some of the members actually went up there and walked around. It's actually kind of like culturally interesting place. If you go in there, they had a big tent where, let me back up. I wish it was still faith dairy and grass and cows and everything else. But if you broaden your senses, and they had all these tribes that are doing the canoe thing. It's actually kind of an interesting thing. I don't like the marijuana shop. And the worst thing about the whole thing, and this is why I'm even bringing it up, across the street is the Iron Horse place. I think they're forcing her out. She's losing customers because we can't keep the horses there with all the fireworks. And so,
Yeah.
and I've been discussing, the Puyallup tribal letter that we wrote. I've been discussing that with people, and I just don't think that they would ever give up their fireworks. And it's not just the tribal fireworks. People they buy the fireworks there, then they go down Pipeline Road and shoot them off there. It's a mess. It's hard to have a horse out there now, I guess. Kind of sad, that's all. That's all I have.
Okay. All right. Moving on to agenda item 5A, Lidford Field lighting.
Oh,
Did anyone have any updates for that?
I forgot to say thank you, folks.
Oh, you're welcome, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think we've heard anything about the Lidford Field street lighting.
Didn't Tacoma Power say that they couldn't put a street light up because there are too many wires, just like same situation that we had at 48th and
No, it was approved. It's just pending them installed. We have no idea where it's going from there. It's just a waiting game to see how they're going to address it.
Yeah. Okay. More to come. Agenda item 5B, Waller Road curve and the Vickery corridor traffic safety issue. I don't think we've had any updates on that either, and that's really something that Jen's been tracking on Waller Road. I don't think we've heard anything about Vickery either.
I have something on that.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not real thrilled with the Puyallup tribe having their thing there at the Faith Dairy. I mean, culturally, it's interesting, but the traffic issue is horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
I did some investigation on that on my own, and it's all online. You can do it yourself. On Vickery Road, there's 2 access points to get into this tribal facility. You've seen those, I'm sure. Those were issued as temporary egress points. They're not permanent. The county was supposed to issue them for 1 year. I think the permit even expired. And I'm not suggesting the board should take a position on it, but it's a condition that's really bad.
Hey,
It's something
Dan,
that,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think that B is specifically about just safety measures for the general traffic safety, not specifically about the tribal stuff.
oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's tied in with the Waller Road stuff, not specifically about the access coming from the Faith Dairy.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, just
Whereabouts in on Vickery Road is the concern?
they're
Well,
trying,
we
yeah,
sent
trying
a
to farm
letter.
improvements. Yeah,
Yeah, we sent a letter to Pierce County, gosh, probably almost 2 years ago now, about like 104th, 96th, 84th, and 72nd in Vickery.
Oh, yeah.
And they responded with a, well, we're not really going to do much.
Yeah.
I think they, upped some signage, but that was about it. So we've kind of been monitoring it ever since then.
My apologies. Yeah, I recall the conversation 2 years ago. I, in fact, was T-boned at Vickery and 72nd Street and totaled out my truck. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, it's not regarding the tribe. I withdraw my comment.
Well, but I do think though that it is tangential to Vickery corridor that we've been talking about. This does contribute to some of the safety issues along Vickery. This one's more focused on, closer to 72nd. So I would say they're semi-related, Dan. So I don't know. I have to look back in their oh, they have driveway approaches. Yeah. I see what you're saying. The driveway approaches back back in the day were issued. I'm just looking at the driveway approval, driveway approach, commercial 2024.
They're identified as temporary.
Yeah, I don't see that specific word in here, but I have to do a little bit more
Yeah.
looking.
with enough dynamite, anything's not temporary, or everything's temporary rather.
Yeah. Conduct driveway approach number 2 to Vickery Avenue fireworks stand. Yeah. You're right, Dan. It is kind of an ongoing issue for traffic in a very rural community. I was gone last weekend kind of on purpose, but then also kind of coincidentally, so I missed anything that was happening there, and I didn't see too much in the way of complaints or feedback on the Facebook group, because that's usually the first place people go to make complaints about things like that. But I didn't see anything, so I don't know what it looked like during the canoe journey where all the events were happening there.
Well,
I'm assuming it was pretty busy, but
yeah, the good news is that the property is infrequently used for any event.
mhm.
Sort of good news is the fireworks were much scaled down from last year. Some really good news is that the bottom part of the Faith Dairy property down below that goes down the hill and into the valley. They had that during the canoe event, just flooded with people with the teepees and tents and all sorts of temporary places for them to stay while they're doing the canoe journey. And that kind of tells me that that's what they want to do with the property. They need to have a site where they can have a large gathering of the tribal members to come and congregate into an area during the summer. And that 20 acres down below, one day it was just green grass. The next day it was covered with tents and trailers and everything else. 4 days later, it's cleaned up, not a piece of litter, and they're gone.
Mhm.
So if that's the use of the property of those 20 acres, and in our letter to the Puyallup tribe that you folks helped me write, we indicated that the headwaters of the Squally Creek are in that as seen from space. So I think that property is not going to be used for, knock on wood, any kind of a subdivision or anything like that. I think it's going to be used for a gathering. Let's call it sounds like a gathering place for tribal events. I don't know. That's what it is. You have to kind of, I guess, accept it and deal with it.
It's an extension of the cultural center, what it seems to be.
Well, the cultural center is actually there. The house,
Right.
the old house, the old Minzaniti house, actually has a sign, the Puyallup Tribal Cultural Center. When I was a kid, I went down to the Cushman Hospital down there at Cascadia. They had, this is 40 years ago. They had the museum there then, and I would go through there. I'm very intrigued with Puyallup tribal history. I think I could talk more about that, but go to their website and read and look at the pictures. It's very interesting. I mean, I think yeah, it's very interesting.
I was going to say that I noticed they purchased another piece of property to the north of that parcel that connects to 64th. And
Yeah.
so for the canoe journey, they were actually having people enter in on 64th, drive through that parcel onto the Old Faith Dairy site. So,
Angela, that's the property I'm talking about.
mm-hmm.
Lower property. They have the 20 acres above that they've kind of asphalted over.
Yeah.
Turned Paradise into a parking lot.
Yes.
And then the property down below that you just referenced, that's what I'm talking about. And to me, it seems they've kind of, that whole thing is, I think, is just going to be a gathering place. I think once a year, you're going to have to bite the bullet and give your horse a sedative and put him in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
Fireworks, but other than that, it just stays pretty much vacant. It's something they use periodically. That's all I have to say.
All right. Agenda item 5C, 64th and Waller. When we've kind of talked a little bit about access between the Waller Road Elementary School and the Grange, and also access to Pipeline Trail. Anyone have any updates or heard anything about that recently? Just wanted to check in.
No, but someday I'd like to take a walk out there with you folks and talk about it. That's all.
Stand on the side of the road where there's no shoulder.
No thanks.
We'll take a walk. Anybody wants to take a walk, give me a call anytime. I'd be more than pleased to go take a walk with you.
The last thing that I heard is that the city of Tacoma is doing another section of 64th. Before they start that section that continues from I guess Portland to the city limits, basically on 64th.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be, I want to say, like 3 years. So we've got some time to kind of work that idea and try to exercise some. I think if it's, I don't think we want to ask for, I think we've kind of decided that we're not asking for sidewalks and curbs, but we would like a trail of some sort. And yes, that's going to involve some impacts possibly, or at least addressing them in some way because of that corridor going down into the area where they're replacing that culvert. If we could catch them while they're doing that culvert there and make sure we get a piece that's walkable would be nice. But that's kind of like my only biggest concern right now. I don't know where exactly that all is at with the group that I've been working with. We need to have another get together.
The culvert there at 64th and Swan is not on the 6-year surface water improvement plan, and it's not on the 6-year transportation improvement plan either.
Wow.
Just for information, so you know that.
You. That's good to know. Thanks.
Yep.
I only have one comment. I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut. On 64th Street, I fully support the redoing of that road from Waller Road to Portland Avenue. Talked about that. And we also need to have a nice area along one side where people can walk. that is safe. And I tell you, there's a lot of history there. I mean, there used to be a wooden bridge going across there. The concrete abutment is still there. That's years ago. But on the south side of that existing road, from one end to the other end of that canyon is a very short distance. And it'd be very easy just to add a culvert on the south side, a little additional culvert, a little fill. And there you go, you have a nice sidewalk or a asphalt bike trail or whatever you want to call it. That's all I want to say. That's the end of my conversation on that one.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Whatever they just, if they're gonna put a bridge in there, which sounds like what they're leaning towards.
Yeah.
There would have to be sidewalk on one side or the other so that people would have walking access across Swan Creek. And if you look at what they've done at 96th and Waller with the farm, they have asphalt walkways there, which would work, I think, well from Waller Road to the bridge in the future.
Okay.
All right. Agenda item 5D, which is Orange Gate Park and Pipeline Trail updates. I'm looking at their website right now. I don't see any updates on Pipeline. I know they're out there. And
faulted a good portion from 72nd all the way towards the south.
I think they're getting somewhat close to paving from 72nd and Waller to 84th.
They've already done it. It's done, Larry.
No, they haven't paved it yet. They just put down gravel.
No, it's done. I saw it today.
Asphalt.
Asphalt.
Okay,
No, you got me wondering now. I'm gonna have to go up and look. Larry, I'm sure I saw it today. I drove by and I says, good grief, I gotta call Larry Voll and tell him this. It's black, it's either asphalt or black crushed rock. I don't know.
I don't think they've paved it yet, but I could be wrong.
It's close.
Would that possibly be the maintenance side for the ease of access? Oh, what is that one? The easement?
Maybe.
And not necessarily the trail itself.
Looks to me like a brand new.
From what I understand, the trail's supposed to not be like hard asphalt. It's supposed to be packed dirt material, isn't it, through that area? Or is it actually hard asphalt?
Both.
Okay.
You have asphalt for riding bicycles and things like that, and then you have a accessory one on the side for horses.
Oh, right. Okay, that's what I was thinking. All right.
It looks like in Orange Gate, they are doing a forest health logging operations on Orange Gate North, and that's closed until basically 2025. So the North 40 parcel is where they're doing some thinning and some forestry work. So I don't know if anyone's been out there to see that recently, but yeah.
I've been picking up garbage around there. I haven't seen any additional activity this year in the North 40.
Well, it looks like the
I did some cutting last summer, but I haven't seen so far this year.
Yeah, they might not have started just quite yet, but it looks like that's planned. So, okay. Ongoing. John, adopt a road for the fall. I already put a placeholder on a date on my calendar, so we must have talked about it once before, but Jen had it on the agenda, so I wanted to just confirm.
Well, I was thinking the 7th is first day of the fair, probably. So maybe the 14th is what I was thinking, but what did you have?
I had the 14th on my calendar.
Okay.
So doesn't mean we have to keep that, but I think it's
that's what I had set on mine too.
Mid-September. Okay. Does that work? You want to keep that, John?
Yeah, I think that works.
Okay.
I'll reserve the equipment.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks again for doing that. I'll be here to help in September, so
Okay, me
looking
too.
forward to picking up some garbage.
Yay.
Other people's garbage. Um, all right. Any other news or announcements or anything good for the order? Anything for the good of the order? Okay.
I wanted
Oh,
to
I have a
mention, oh,
Who's going to be the next county executive? And does it matter?
I think Sheila spoke up first.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sheila, you spoke up first.
I had a comment about, I happen to belong to the tribal Facebook group, and there was an invitation to the SISPUS Education Center for tribal members and anyone who lives on tribal property to come to the SISPUS Education Center to learn about the huckleberry harvest and to stay. And there's an application form on the website there, or on their Facebook site, on their website, if you want to do that. I don't think it's of any cost to anybody who wants to do it. And I think it's open to adults and families and children. So I think children have to be escorted by a parent, of course, but I just wanted to put that out there. I thought that was a nice gesture to include residents on the tribal lands.
Where is that CISPUS Center?
It's
Randall,
it's out in Lewis County.
Oh,
It's gosh, you know where Skate Creek Road is, kind of out that way.
Mm.
It's
Mhm.
it's pretty far, but it's a really kind of a pretty place.
I think it's near Randall, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. I think that's right.
And the Puyallup tribe sponsors this?
The Puyallup tribe is doing a whole educational piece on huckleberry harvest and the harvesting of native foods for the tribal peoples and for anybody who wants to come and learn that lives on tribal land
On reservation.
on the reservation.
Hmm.
There you go, Dan.
Well, I just think it's interesting that the tribe is reaching out to non-tribal members, which I think is a good thing. And I think that it just seems to kind of go hand in hand with maybe non-tribal members reaching out to tribal members, which I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I do think that the relationship with tribes is very complicated given our history.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, go to I tell you, I've spent probably 100 hours just working on that stuff. It's really interesting if you go on there on the website and you look at all you got history. I mean, they got pictures. It's a good read. You ought to study the tribal Puyallup tribal archives online. Really interesting.
thanks. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Go ahead, Larry. You had your hand up.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One is, did we ever totally finalize Dan's Puyallup Tribe of Indians letter?
Yeah, I had the same question.
Oh, I hope that you did. There was a majority vote, and I put it together, and it's. I mean, I'm running with it. Am I in trouble?
Well, I thought there were some additions or corrections.
Yeah, those were
And-
made. Those were made. I think I had corrections from. I think Sheila said for me to use opportunity instead of pleasure. Or was that, I made the corrections.
That was me.
I think I sent some in. And then Jen had some lengthy questions and comments too, but I never saw the final version, so I don't know what was sent over.
I'll email you folks the final version. Would you like that?
Okay.
Yeah, was it already
Great.
sent or is it almost sent?
Oh, it's printed up and I've already distributed some.
Okay.
Am I in trouble?
How come I was never informed of a final vote?
Well, you haven't been getting our emails, Dawn. That's
Well,
part of the problem, but I don't really recall ever voting on it either. I know that there was just some feedback. So,
Okay,
Same
I,
here.
yeah.
I need to say this for the record then. My understanding is that I had at least 5 people who gave me the green light to go with what I had. It never did come through with a board vote
Mm-mm.
on
Mm-mm.
the end of it. And I didn't know that's what we were doing. I thought it was consensus. The whole thing, the whole involvement, my involvement initially was by board consensus. It wasn't there was never a vote for me to do anything. It was by board consensus. And then what I did, which is something that I frankly have never done before, is to participate in the wordsmithing of a document with a number of different people. And in my own mind, I thought, well, I had the consent to go with a letter, but I backed off and put it in front of this board and the membership to contribute to the letter and make changes and corrections and additions. And every time I got a letter back from you folks, from an individual, who said, I want these changes. And then something from Angela, I recommend this. Something from Larry saying, yeah, I like it. Russell saying, I like it. When I had what is it, 5 or 6 people saying affirmative, yes, I took that as the consensus. Now, tell me if I'm wrong.
I think people wanted to see an actual final signed off by everybody. Yes, let's do this, send this out as is, because you get a whole bunch we don't necessarily all know who said what and what you actually entered after that based on that input. That's kind of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, but everybody did receive from everybody. Like, for example, I made
Except Dawn.
Except Dawn.
Except Dawn.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we
Dawn.
all saw the input from other people, but we don't know if anybody sent you something directly to you without us in there, or what
Mhm.
it was that you actually added to it that was said by those people.
I will
Yeah.
send it to you
Yeah.
tomorrow. Also, I deleted 2 of the attachments, and the only attachment that I had on there was the priority fish habitat by the State Department of Wildlife.
Okay.
I sent that to you separately.
We just need a final version.
Yeah, I want to know, have I done something wrong here in the board's estimation?
No, I just think there might have been some confusion as to whether or not we were going to have a vote versus consensus. And I think Jen was under the impression that we were voting. I thought we were going to eventually vote.
right.
And we were going to do it by
Did Dawn.
email.
And I think it was ended up being done by email. And of course, Dawn wasn't in the loop on those, except
I will send
generally. So
I will send it to you tomorrow. I will send it to you tomorrow. And John, I will send to you this letter here on 5507 tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm good with Dan's letter. I didn't know if Jen would sign it, given all of her suggestions.
no, she
which were
wasn't.
pretty
She wasn't
dramatic.
going to sign it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I basically I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Okay.
I have a
Um,
question
Yes.
for everyone. What does consensus mean with this group? What does it mean to have consensus?
My
Well,
understanding.
yeah, that was Dan's term for it. Yeah.
My understanding, well, I think we all know, I should turn some lights on in here, I apologize. My understanding is that we either do a hands up, hands down vote, or that we have reached consensus, meaning that everybody in the room seems to generally agree. And that obviously would be at least a majority vote.
And we've done
Okay.
stuff by consensus in the past. It's not something that's brand
So,
new.
so consensus requires a majority vote, is what you're saying, not. I've always thought, and that may have been with regard to the boards that I have been on, that consensus means that everyone is in agreement that is on the board and has a upvote as a yes. That's like consensus building is when everyone is in agreement versus maybe a vote. And I think we need to decide, are we going to do some things via consensus, or do certain things require a vote? I believe that because of the way the letter was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know all the history on this, is that it appeared to me that it was something that would require a vote, not consensus, not a consensus as it's being depicted here.
Well, if you're talking consensus, that definitely wasn't met because Don didn't have input and Jen disagreed with a lot of things. So
Yeah.
that by definition would not be consensus.
I've always looked at it as being, maybe I'm being a little too hyper technical, but you have a unanimous consensus where everybody would agree, 6-6, everybody agrees. Or it could be just, we generally can, have a consensus, because when I was initially given approval by the board to even be involved with this, it was not unanimous because Don was against it at that time.
I believe I was not the only one.
No, you were not.
I
No.
was going to
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
I think that my recollection was that there was still some consideration being made by other members of the board.
Okay, well, I'm gonna email it to you tomorrow. You can look it over. I incorporated all of the, you have your own emails where you sent me your proposed corrections, and you can double check to make sure that I put those in there as
Okay.
you.
I don't think I had corrections so much as I had comments.
It was either you or Sandy that said not to use that we've had the pleasure to review the comp plan, but we had the opportunity to review the comp plan, and I made that change as well as the other ones too. But I'll email them to you tomorrow, and then you can take a look at it.
I think that you've done a great job of putting together a very nice letter and a very good kind of decoding of things. But I am still, and I say this because of, like I said, the complicated history, that I do believe that we were already once turned away by the tribe in a very sort of succinct way. And I think that it almost, I think there's something there, okay, that is telling us that our input is not welcome.
Well, let me respond to that right off the top. What happened is Jen Bosworth was connected with Marty Campbell with this theory they would go in there and have some kind of a discussion. That did not work out well because they were confronted by the individual there who deals with intergovernmental, some person who was not friendly. I happened to talk to some people on the tribal staff who told me, Dan, what you need to do is talk to the tribal membership in the community and have them contact the tribe. So the way to deal with this is not to go barging through.
Who is them?
I would not say their name. I've been
Wait.
told by some people who I know on Pale tribal staff have told me the best way, Dan, is to have the tribal membership advocate for themselves, not for you to advocate on behalf of non-tribal people, but to have.
Okay, so Dan, so why are you doing this then?
Why am I doing what?
Advocating doing.
Because
so wait just a second. Wait, I'm going to try to restate what you said. You said that you were told that it is best if we went through other tribal members to talk about the community and its needs, and to not for the Summit Waller Community Association, okay, to try to address the tribe, but to go through tribal members to address the tribe. And it sounds like to me that you're doing the very thing that they suggested that you not do, or that you're not going to tribal
That's
members.
what you're saying, Dan. You're saying you're going through the back door.
Listen to me carefully.
I don't care what you got to say.
Well, then, Don, I'm sorry about that. What I was told is to present information to tribal members in the community. This letter,
Through the back door.
This letter is being presented to tribal members in the community. Larry Volan and I have talked to a tribal member before, a very prominent one in the community, and we will again. This information is being provided, this letter is being provided to tribal members. They can read the letters and they can do what they want with it.
How is it getting dispersed to all the tribal members? Is it published on their website?
Don, I'm not going to respond to this. I'm not going to argue with you. My lights are going out here. I can hardly see you guys. The letter is out. I will send you a copy of it, and we'll go from there. And I'm doing precisely what I was suggested to do by people who know a lot more than me, and that is to let the tribal members advocate their own tribal government. But they have to have the information, and the information, a lot of it is contained in that letter that was sent out.
They have to have the information.
Yeah.
Actually, for me, that's not how it appeared in paper. It appeared like we were actually addressing the tribe as an entity and not individuals.
Well,
And
Mhm.
as a favor.
the letter,
And
the letter is being sent to the tribe, the tribal council, which is fine. Now they may rebuff it, they may look at it and decide not to read it. That's fine. But it's also being sent out to tribal members, and they may want to act on it. Many of them live out here in the community.
Who sent it out to tribal members individually? We didn't agree to that.
Okay, Don, you've made your position pretty clear, and I'm not going
Well, give me an answer.
to answer you, Don.
Okay.
I don't know who these tribal members are.
Well,
Is that listed specifically on the letter?
no, it's not.
Do we have a way of being able to, let's say if you sent this letter out to specific tribal members, if they contact us, will we know who those tribal members are?
If they identify themselves, they might.
Well, wait a minute.
Larry, what do you have to say, Larry?
Go ahead,
I-
Larry.
Look, any avenue that we pursue that's going to try to establish some sort of a relationship with the tribe is worth pursuing. However, Jan, I think, made it pretty clear that Summer Waller Community Association could have easily put together a letter explaining in several examples how the Puyallup tribe has not been good neighbors to non-Indians in the Summer Waller community. You know, those horrendous signs that have been put up on 3 locations within our community. The total disregard for the people who live along Vickery north of 72nd. The paving over of the Old Faith Dairy site. I mean, you could go on with a few others, but
Right.
Mhm.
before we go that route, I think we should still pursue some sort of if you want to call it down a backdoor route, fine. Go to the backdoor route. Pass out things to Native American Indians that you know, and we'll see what happens. If we don't get anywhere with that, well, we can go with a different avenue of pursuit. So, you know, I think we should give it a go.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm trying to plant seeds in the community and to build relationships with people who live in the community. Tribal members are our neighbors, and the letter is written in a very positive manner. I don't want to belabor the negative aspects. I want to deal with positivity. And I think the tribe has reached out to the non-tribal community with regard to their Huckleberry program, which I think is something I'd like to look into. I think it's also important for non-tribal members to at least share with their neighbors, other tribal members, our commonality. And that's what we've been talking about for the last number of months. And it's what is now ongoing. So I'll send you a copy of the letter and you can look at it, and I'm sure you can have comments after that. But Don, I understand your position. You made it very clear from the get-go, and that's fine. And Sheila, I respect your opinion too. And it's just something that we have to move forward. Look, it's important to talk to your neighbors. I like to talk to my neighbors. The neighbors across the street, I've talked to both the north and south people, and I talk to a lot of neighbors, and the tribal members are my neighbors, and I want to share with them the commonality of the zoning order. It's not so much an advocacy piece. It's simply, in fact, it's not an advocacy piece. It's premised upon hope, of course, but if you read it, it's simply a side-by-side comparison of the interests that we both share in common. And that's pretty reasonable, I think.
And I didn't have a problem with that, but I do think that it can get complicated if we don't follow process as an association, as a group that has a board that makes decisions based upon whether or not we have consensus, if there's an agreement on that, whether we take a vote, and whether or not we're all in agreement with how we do those things. And I think that's very critical in keeping our board together and solid as a unit.
I agree. For the last 30 years, and Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we have generally, well, we've had a lot of votes and we've had a lot of nods of the head. Yeah, let's do this. And we didn't even keep track whether it was unanimous or.
Sorry about the dogs. Sorry about the dogs.
Anyway, that's all I got to say on that particular issue. I will send out the emails tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
The only reason
Thank you.
the only reason I brought that up is because I hadn't seen a final
Yeah.
version of it, and I thought we were moving to some sort of a vote.
Well, I would apologize if I ran out of place. My emails finally got shut down after a while. I don't know what happened. Gabe could explain that. But I had on a list of everybody who supported it. I went right down the list. It was, Gabe, John, Larry, everybody gave their little position and they were okay with that. And I just put it all together and I can't look, let me say this humbly too. And I'm not trying to be self-important, but my time is kind of valuable too, and I've spent at least 100 hours in this thing researching it out. And it got to the point where I did my job for the board. I made all the corrections. I mean, I don't have pride of authorship or anything. I'm not that way on this, but I think I went above and beyond working with the board on this particular issue. That's all I got to say.
Well, the letter's been sent, so it's not like we can retract it.
Do you want to?
No.
No. Have you gotten any response yet, Dan, from the tribe?
Well, yeah, I gave one to the Maxim McCollum, the Iron Horse people up there, and she got back to me on it, saying that the fireworks are kind of causing her horses a lot of problems. And a few people. I don't want to. I have to hold some confidence. I'm not going to, tell everybody who I'm talking to, because I think that would be a violation of some kind of a privacy. I just don't want to do that. If you
what I meant was, have you gotten any response back from the tribal council on
I don't expect to be well. It doesn't work that way. They'll listen. They'll do what they want to do, and maybe they'll just decide by chance to kind of work, find out a common solution. I don't know.
I think that's what Jen was alluding to, was the arrogance of the tribe. Hard to deal with.
Well, Jan had a bad experience. She had, I think, 1 or 2 meetings with the public relations official at the tribe. If she would have talked to the fisheries people, for example, I've talked to everybody from fisheries to John Bill, the attorney, over the last. I've been dealing with the tribe for 30 some years, and on fisheries primarily. And there's ways to do things and ways not to do things. And I think this letter we put out is an appropriate way. Whether it brings any response of any kind, I have no idea. But at least we've gone on record to express our interest. That's all.
Well, I would just like to point out that I like to try and put myself in the shoes of people on both sides of an issue. I believe that just below the surface in the Summit Waller area, there is an anti-Indian sentiment that is there. I'm not sure what's going to develop from it, but it's because of certain decisions that the Yelp Tribe of Indians have made in our community that doesn't sit well with a lot of non-Indians in our community.
Well,
And I think that's what Jen was alluding to in her comments in regards to that letter.
well, I want to live in a community where everybody can get along, where everybody can find a common purpose and some kind of a way to coexist. I don't think it's nearly as bad as Jen pointed out. Sure, Faith Dairy was a disaster. I think there are a lot of tribal members who don't approve of what happened to Faith Dairy. I've heard the term paradise paved over with the parking lot several times. But I want to do whatever I can to have relationships with my neighbors and to bring and provide the opportunity for tribal members to say, oh, well, this is rural separated. We have rural residential. Let's go with that. I've also been told that the tribe is not real big on residential uses. They're more into commercial uses. And I don't know what area here, other than Faith Dairy, could be turned into anything into a commercial use. Read the letter again and look at the habitat priority list by the Washington State Game Department, the Fisheries Department. That portion of the reservation is primarily confined to areas of canyons and creeks and wetlands. So it's historically the non-Indians were put on the useless property, where the agricultural lands further to the south were not. Well, come full circle, hundreds of years later, those canyon areas are actually very valuable because they do provide a fishery habitat for everybody. So I want to point these things out, and I commend the board for supporting me and for taking this, for just pointing out the facts. And you folks helped shape that letter much better than I could have ever done alone. You take the first letter I wrote, especially before Gabe got a hold of it. Gabe helped me a lot on that. Thank you, Gabe. It was not nearly as good as the one that we finally sent out.
I want to mention something Sandy had said at the last meeting, where she said, when we talk about those people, and I want to make sure that we recognize that when we say our community, that the tribe also has their tribal lands that were given back to them. Okay. They basically were given tribal land, and then it was promptly removed.
You can go on the website and see
for lack of a better term at this point. So when we talk about our community, this is also this area is also not all of Summit Waller, but a chunk of it is tribal land.
It's tribal reservation.
Tribal, well, okay, tribal reservation. It is tribal reservation, and when the tribe purchases something, they are a sovereign nation. It is like trying to tell Ecuador what to do with Ecuador's land.
Yeah, Sheila, you're preaching to the choir. I think everybody knows this. And if you don't know this, just go and research it out on the tribal website. It's pretty objective reading, actually, if you look at it.
You know what? I don't need to be patronized.
Excuse me?
Okay. I don't need to be patronized. I am trying to remind ourselves that if we want to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, that looking at it from the perspective of being a tribal member is very different than how we perceive things. And they have a history of having been treated in a very unfair way.
I think if you look at the letter, Sheila, that you folks helped me craft, I think we've done everything we can do.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying that this is this is a very, I mean, this is like walking on eggshells kind of thing.
I realize that using the word "these people" is problematic. Our community is an issue. I will be cognizant of that issue going forward, as I'm sure you all will.
I'm
I
trying.
Well, yeah, well, I'm trying too. Using the word "these tribal people" is, in my opinion, appropriate. These non-tribal people, it's never sent in a derogatory fashion, and I think that you
I
should know.
don't, I don't believe that it is, but I think that it starts to, it could be misunderstood very easily by someone that sees things very differently than us. And I'm not saying necessarily someone from the tribe, but it just could, it is, it's just so, such a fragile connection that we could possibly have with them.
I
And I don't want
I,
to walk all over.
I disagree with that. I have talked to tribal members, and they are just normal people like you and me. They grew up in the same century as you and I did, and you're portraying it as some kind of
I'm talking about the tribe, the sovereign nation, which is the tribe. I'm not talking about individuals that you know.
I've talked. Look, I'm not going to talk anymore about this. I think we're overthinking this tonight, and we should be on executive session if you want to talk about it further. I'm not going to belabor it any further. Is there anything more you folks want to discuss tonight on this issue?
No, but I do think in closing, we'll need to make it very clear if this, something like this comes up again, or if someone wants to send a letter, if we are going to vote, then it needs to be very clear that that's the follow-up and that'll be the expectation versus consensus. So I think we need to make that clear next time, because I think some of us thought we were going to be circling back and voting on it because we had talked about that in the meeting, and then it just got sent out without really any no courtesy copies. So I think we'll just have to make that clear next time too. So expectations are clear.
I want to make it perfectly clear that I was sent on a mission, allowed to go on a mission on this case by consensus.
No. I would disagree. So I'm just saying we'll just need to clarify that next time. It's done now. It's done. So I'm not going to argue about like what we did or didn't do, but it's just necessary for next time to having that very clear.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Angela.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm saying right now that the minutes will reflect that when I began this process, it was the consensus that I would pursue this. And I left that room with the consensus, whatever you want to call consensus. I was given the green. In fact, somebody used the green light. I think you told me I had the green light at one time.
The green light was to present a letter to us for final approval.
Don, that's not, Larry, what is your recollection?
Can we just stop this right now?
I think we have an issue here where consensus means two different things, and I think going forward, consensus, in my experience with being a chair at a church parish council, consensus was everybody agreed. So I'd agree with Sheila on what the definition of consensus is. I think Dan got the impression that consensus meant a majority of the people on the board agreed. But I would agree with Angela. Let's just move forward, and from here going forward, consensus means everybody agrees, because that's really the proper definition of consensus. Yeah. So let's just move forward.
Thank you, Larry.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry. Any other closing comments before we adjourn? You're on mute, Gabe.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, so moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.